Energy storage has become central to industrial efficiency, but companies aren't just buying batteries anymore. They're interested in guaranteed outcomes, uptime, flexibility, sustainability, reduced total cost of ownership. Leading this shift is UgoWork, a Canadian company redefining energy management through its energy as a service model. Joining us today is Jean-François Marchand, Director of Marketing and Business Development, to explain how this model works in practice, from service level agreement to asset lifecycle and end of life management.
This podcast is powered by P2S Management Consulting, the team helping manufacturers shift from one-time product sales to recurring revenue models. At P2S, we partner with industrial companies to design and launch product as a service, subscription, and pay-per-use offers, tackling pricing, financing, legal structuring, sales enablement, and everything else needed to make recurring models work.
Hello, Jean-François. Nice to have you on the show here.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be there.
That's good. That's good. Perhaps for the audience to start, who is Jean-François? What does he do at UgoWork? And then also, who is UgoWork? And what is the history behind UgoWork and how you got into a energy as a service model?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, Jean-François, but I go by JF. So if you want to call me JF, that's fine. It's easier. Well, we're based in Canada. We do a lot of our business with Americans and the rest of Canada. So I go by JF. So I'm a mechanical engineer by trade. And then I moved to marketing, product development as well. So that's my current role with UgoWork. I've been with the company for 6 years, and I've always been involved in technology, really high tech companies, working internationally for those companies. And I guess my engineering background helps me translate the technical stuff into like the real world and make it more simple and more easy to understand for folks out there. So that's my main role at UgoWork. Right now, I'm in charge of marketing, business development, things like that. We have a fast growth, so it's quite challenging, but it's fun.
I've seen also you're part of the Deloitte's Fast 50, right? So congratulations on being ranked on those ones. This is a good benchmark, I think.
Yeah, it is. It's a testimonial from our customers and from the market that we're doing things right in a way. that being part of that ranking. So the 50 fastest growing companies in Canada. There's an upcoming ranking for Americas, the Fast 500. So we'll look forward to see what ranking we'll be in. But yeah, all good. So you asked about UgoWork. Well, we do lithium-ion batteries for the forklift or material handling applications. So forklifts that you see in a warehouse, basically more and more these equipments are electric. So we provide the batteries and the power to have those moving. Well, we have also a software solution that comes with the batteries. Those batteries are connected to the cloud. So that gives us information on the power usage, the energy usage. It can help in the operations optimization. Also, there are applications in terms of maintenance and making sure that there's always an equipment running. So a lot of features and opportunities for innovation in terms of data and software. So yeah, we're really a solution provider in terms of energy for our customers.
Okay, that's good to hear. So you're a manufacturing company, but then more of a tech company from a feeling point of view, that is selling batteries, but with a big layer of software and optimization and intelligence behind it, and offering everything as a service or also as a service to your customers. And speaking of which, as a service, what does energy as a service actually mean for you and for UgoWork?
Yeah, well, good question. I can just tell you that we're shifting from a consumer kind of market where people were buying batteries when a lead acid is kind of the legacy technology. when it was done, when it was not powering the forklift anymore, they were just purchasing another, no matter what the brand is. So it was more of a consumer type of purchasing model. Whereas we're moving to a solution business model in which there's a relationship between the provider and the customer. So that makes more sense than to go to an as a service business model, because then you have that relationship that is being built, and it's not just the battery. Like you said, there's the software, there's the expertise. The offer is evolving as well because, well, the technology evolves. So our customers, when they come in and they sign on an energy as a service package, they have those software updates and additional benefits that come with it. And the other reason for, I would say, adoption, and maybe even in the first place choosing to offer the energy as a service to our customers, was the acquisition cost, because lithium ion is more expensive than the lead acid counterpart. We're talking about the 3x factor, more or less. But when you factor in the savings that you do on maintenance, on labor, on the extended life of the product, the uptime that you gain, there's a clear return on investment for applications running 2 shifts or 3 shifts a day. But still, the upfront cost was a blocker, if you will. So that's why offering a monthly subscription kind of made sense to go to market with that disrupting technology in the first place.
Okay, so what you're saying is when you started back in 2015, and if I'm not mistaken, in 2018 was the first commercial offer out there, right? So CapEx was the biggest issue on customer side, and this was the reason why you moved to as a service, or were there other reasons as well?
Well, that was one of the main drivers. The other one that I can probably think of is the risk associated to new technology, because back then, well, some customers, because at the beginning the two founders did a lot of voice of customer. They went to warehouses, they interviewed operators, and some of them were saying, I think lithium is just for toys. It's not made for industrial applications. So the belief that the technology would be able to sustain an industrial application was not quite there. And also there was a promise that lithium would last like 3 times or 4 times the life length of the lead acid product, but it was not a proven technology yet. So by subscribing to a service and being able to pull out at any moment or at the end of the term was more attractive to those who were not as risk adverse. Yeah, that's the other main component of why we offered it, and also why people choose that business model.
Okay, so the reluctance towards a new technology itself is also a driving factor why you move towards as a service.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
interesting.
we're in a conservative type of market where people have been doing the same thing all over for many years, and yeah, they say, why change?
Why change something that works for them, right?
Yeah.
Good. But this is why we need creative heads to turn this around. You mentioned the two founders. What is the story behind UgoWork? How did they just woke up one morning and said, okay, UgoWork, this is what we're going to call it, and this is the idea of doing energy as a service? Or how did it happen? Are you leading your company's shift from selling products to delivering outcomes? Then join the P2S Products as a Service Club, an invite-only group for business leaders who are building or running product as a service and subscription models. It's a space to share real experiences, solve challenges together, and learn from others already on this journey. No sales talk, no theory, just an open exchange and practical ideas to help you move faster. If you're interested, send me, Florian, a message to learn more. See you there.
Not really. those two guys, their name are Phil and Rami. They met in university doing like their electrical engineering bachelor in Canada. They were brilliant students, but really good into like the practical stuff. They started working for Alstom Powers after uni, but after 4 years, they kind of realized that was not made for them. They were more entrepreneurs and they wanted to make a difference. So they went back to school. They started a master's degree. Around that time in Quebec City, where we are, there was an introduction of an electric bus. And I don't know if you've been to Quebec City, but it's pretty hilly. And so the bus struggled when going up the hills. And even at some point, there was like smoke that came out of one of those and they put it like away and the whole program went away. And that was kind of a trigger. The two guys said, "Oh, I think there's a problem there and we could maybe solve some of those issues with the batteries." So they were in uni doing a master's in power electronics, and that's when they started to work on a concept. At first, they wanted to solve the problem for buses, but then their advisors told them, "Oh, you got a piece of paper, you've got a concept, but you're gonna go to BMW and Mercedes and Volvo and try to sell them on something. You don't have a penny, so you might want to try to find more of a niche market first." And that's when they found the material handling space. Phil, one of the founders, had a friend who was operating a small 3PL, third-party logistics operation, and he went to him and asked about the batteries, how it was, and so on. And the answer was clear. It was, "Oh, that's a nightmare." So that was kind of another trigger, another spark to say, okay, we're going to go into that niche, find out where the problems are and try to develop a solution that is not going to be just a swap of the chemistry, because the lead acid batteries were there. They've been there for like 60 years. But they didn't have the blinds because they didn't come from that industry. So they really developed something different. And right from the start, the batteries were clouded, communicating with the cloud, sending over data. That allowed for subscription model based on consumption and a lot of other stuff. And then, yeah, that's when they found out that the initial price would probably be much higher than lead acid because of all the components and the electronics. And that's when they said, okay, we're going to try to find a financial partner and offer it this as a energy as a service offer. And that's when it started.
Okay, interesting. So from a bachelor's to working at Alstom, being bored, going back to university via smoky buses, and then ending up with friends in warehouses and third-party logistic providers, and feeling that there's something to be done with those forklifts that where the batteries are not being managed in the best way. So this is how they found their niche.
Yeah,
Probably, yeah, more niche than buses, than bus batteries and the entire thing.
it's niche, but still there's like roughly 12 million forklifts operating around the world right now. So it's a big niche. So enough for us to have fun.
That's the number of people living here in Belgium. So that's quite some forklifts.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And you at UgoWork, I mean, we talk about energy as a service, but how do you define energy as a service? What is it for you?
Well, the way we present it is a battery, a charging infrastructure, a software that supports the data that comes from the battery, a portal that is customer facing, but also a portal that is used by our service team and our engineering team to do advanced troubleshooting. There's also a promise of uptime. So when you subscribe, you have a level of support that actually guarantees that you have someone who's taking care of your battery. So if for some reason something happens with the unit, it will send a signal to the cloud. That signal is then analyzed by an expert or by AI in some cases, and then it triggers some actions. The goal really is to make sure that the batteries are up and running for as much time as possible. So the uptime is really important for our customers. So we put everything in place to maximize that. And then, of course, we have end of life management of the asset. While you're under contract, if the capacity of the battery diminishes and you're not able to do your application anymore, there will be a swap. It can be a swap of the whole battery, or it could be a swap of just a lithium pack, because our design allows us to do that that swap and not
So very modular.
Yeah, exactly. So for the whole life of the asset, the carbon footprint will be less, because you don't throw away everything. You just replace the components that replacement. And yeah, I think that pretty much summarizes what the offer is. And on the pricing, we do it based on the consumption. So basically, the kilowatt hour throughput, or what comes out of the battery, is some sort of a measurement of how the battery will age. So the more you use it, the more it will age, and the more money we will ask in return, because that depletes the battery faster, and we'll have to do the replacement faster. So it's kind of a win-win situation where we make sure that the battery is running all the time for the customer, and in return, we get paid all the time. So
Okay.
it's in our advantage to have a running battery for the customer.
So it's inspired by the Rolls-Royce model, where you get flying hours, and not flying hours in your case, but kilowatt hours that are being paid for. And is this a pure pay-per-use model, or do I have to imagine it more as a kind of mobile phone subscription model with tiers, where there are certain tiers with tier 1 up to X kilowatt hours per month, and then there's another tier? Is this like a fixed fee plus a pay-per-use, or is this a pure pay-per-use, or a pure tiered model, or something else?
Well, the offer evolved over the years. When we started, it was strictly a dollar per kilowatt hour, but the feedback we got from customers was that it was swinging too much, and they wanted to have that predictability even in their OpEx. So we changed that. Now we have, like you said, some ranges. What we do is, before we put some batteries into service, we will do a power study at the customer location, and we can establish, okay, you guys are like a 600 kilowatt hour a month type of operation. Here's the price. And then this is fixed, but we monitor. And if there's something going up or going down, then we can readjust.
Okay.
So this way there's more predictability, but still, yeah, it can be modular. It can also fit operations where there's seasonality, because we have customers who do that. So
Okay, interesting.
That's how it is.
So you're in that space. I mean, there's a lot of companies doing this, whether it's in the lighting industry. I think in your case, since you're selling to, let's say, warehouses also, those are also operating lighting systems, and Philips has a quite similar model as you have.
We have a minimum fee, like just to put a battery in service, but other than that, there's no rule. The one thing I can add is we have different levels of software subscription, and there's a service coming with that.
Yeah.
So this is like a separate contract, which is more like a standard software as a service kind of agreement.
Questions on the software as a service very, very soon. But I just want to kind of come back on the energy as a service with the hardware being included. So what you're saying is there's a startup fee, a setup fee at the beginning as well, or not?
Well, the battery has to be paired with a charging station. So the charging station, the customers have to buy it, because they will bolt it into their concrete floor. There's infrastructure. So this is not included into the monthly subscription. So that's like a commissioning fee, if you might.
Yeah.
And then the battery, if it goes in service, we say, okay, you guys are 500 kilowatt hour a month, but under 200, you cannot go under 200. So there will be a minimum fee that cannot be adjusted lower than that level. And then what we do also is, since we work with fleets, it's not forklift by forklift. We pool the whole fleet, and even if one forklift is working less, another one is working more, you kind of get to that average, and the customer gets the predictability.
And so if I get this right, you're saying one range is, let's say, between 200 to 500 kilowatt hour per month. Your customers, if they consume 300 kilowatt hours, do they pay 300 or do they pay the 500 fee? So it's a fixed fee every month, and then it gets adjusted at the end of the year. And if there has been a month where they do, let's say, 700, and then the month thereafter again 300, we're fine with the 500 threshold. Is it in that way, or do they actually pay for the 300 kilowatt hours?
No, we don't do the adjustments monthly because we would have to invoice all the time. So one feedback we got is, and that's how the contracts are structured, is that we monitor if there's a big gap in between the contract and the actual consumption, then we will adjust the level for the upcoming month. And at the end of the period, it could be a year or a quarter, depending on who we're talking to, then we will have some adjustments made. So it could be a credit, or it could be an overcharge.
So what you're saying is it's a fixed fee every month, and then on a quarterly or annual basis, you adjust this fee. So they prefer having the stability rather than purely paying per use.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, interesting. And what about contract durations? Because I guess those batteries, they last what, 7, 8, 9 years, something like that, probably.
Yeah.
What can you comment on lifespan, so duration and contract duration as well?
Well, the standard contract duration is 60 months, 5 years. And you're right, the battery will typically outlast that duration. So some customers are trusting the technology, and they trust that the enclosure of the battery, the counterweight, the electronics will last like 10 years. They might need to have a replacement for the lithium pack, but for as long as they are within the contract, everything gets replaced. Because you have customers who renew after 5 years. You also have customers who will purchase the equipment based on a residual value. And in this case, they might want to just swap the lithium pack. And it's as if they had a brand new battery, but with an older enclosure that has been amortized already. So it can become really competitive for them to do that. So yeah, you have a lot of flexibility in terms of renewing, buying back, or do something in between.
What is your vision as a company? Is your goal, are you, Jean-François, happy when a customer at the end of the life cycle purchases, or are you more happy, or are you happier if they renew their subscription with you?
Tricky question. The answer is probably different if you're asking me or if you're asking our CFO. But I think both are good. What we value is sustainability and keeping that relationship alive with the customer. So in either case, that both situations are acceptable. And I think in our case, the real advantage is to be able to have both options available, because you never know what the internal policy will be for a company. Some companies prefer to buy their stuff. Others run the energy as a service. Like I said at the beginning, the technology was not so mature or didn't have much life. So if you're going to offer a 8-year or 10-year lifespan on a technology that is 2 years old, there might be a risk. So now we see customers who have been using the technology for 5 years with their initial contract, and now they trust. And for them, it makes more sense to not renew necessarily the AAS, but rebuy the asset. But the new batteries that they put in, they will go on a contract.
Okay, interesting. And You mentioned the software as a service component as well. So if my understanding is right, at UgoWork, I can either go for a energy as a service model where I have hardware, software services, consulting, everything included. But then you also, if I decide to purchase your batteries as a customer, I can still subscribe to the software, the services, and the consulting. I get this right? Yes?
Yeah, you do. Actually, you can recreate the energy as a service offer, but à la carte, kind of. So yeah, there's that possibility exists.
Okay. And how does this work? So it's on existing equipment that has to be new. Can it be on equipment that you have sold to them 3 years ago?
Yeah, as long as there's because the minimum criteria to be able to perform the service is to have connectivity. So as long as the batteries are connected to the cloud, either by LTE or Wi-Fi, we can activate license. The software is called UgoPilot. So UgoPilot will then have in the list of assets, we'll have those batteries in. It has to be a UgoWork battery at this point in time, but eventually we could have communication modules to offer the service, the software as a service for either like other brands. It might be lead acid products as well. As long as we can read the signals and send that to the cloud, then we can create the dashboarding and the insights for the customers.
Okay, interesting. And there, your customers, do they pay exactly the same fee structure, not the amounts, but the same fee structure as in the energy as a service?
For the software specifically?
Yes. Software subscription.
The fee is battery based. So how many assets you have in a portal, and then we have layers of service or features, basically like in a classic structure of service, software as a service. So there will be like an entry or a basic plan. There's a pro and enterprise, and then there's other stuff that can be added to the package.
With different features, the more you go up, the more features, the more savings probably you generate as a customer, but the more you need to pay.
Yeah. Well, like one example, obviously, UgoPilot offers some dashboarding and visibility on the fleet, but to some customers, that's, oh no, not yet another dashboard. So these guys, they typically have either a Tableau or a Power BI that centralizes all of their dashboards, or they have like an SAP or like a big enterprise software with possibility to connect other pieces of software through API. So our enterprise package has the API connectivity that allows these guys to connect our battery information into their global dashboarding system.
Okay, super interesting. Super interesting. Speaking of customers, going back to perhaps in parallel, let's say the software as a service as well as the energy as a service, who do you sell this to? Which customer types are the most responsive to these type of offerings?
Well, the first criteria is a company that is keen to transition to lithium ion. So we're talking about companies managing fleets. So if you're talking to someone having 2 or 3 forklifts running one work shift per day, there's no return on investment on lithium at this point. So we're talking more with companies like large 3PLs, large manufacturing companies in automotive, for example, food distribution companies, food manufacturing companies as well. I can throw a few names, a few global names like Kraft Heinz, Toyota Motors, Gordon Food Services, which is a strong player in North America, CG Logistics. These kind of companies, they have the application, but also, and that's the second criteria, they have an openness, or strongly within their roots, there's continuous improvement and optimization. So with the energy as a service and everything that comes with it, the data and everything, that gives them the tools to optimize their fleet, reduce their carbon footprint, optimize their energy use. So they're really sensitive to those kind of benefits that we offer.
Okay, so openness to technology is, or the transition towards this new technology is the first criteria, and then openness to, which is a bit linked, let's say, to innovation in general and to kind of new ways of doing things, must be
Yeah.
a second one.
And you said openness to technology, but I think that also has to be paired with an application in which it makes sense to, like, there's a ROI to transition to lithium, because I mean, ESG and all those things are I think really important, more and more important. But the decision criteria
Dollars.
is still dollars. So it's a good differentiator if you can prove that you will improve the ESG criterias. But in the first place, if you don't have a ROI, probably that the discussion will not happen.
Yeah, exactly. So you need also customers, what you mentioned, which is a bit the third criteria, which have the application, or if I see this like that, they must be driving a lot of kilometers or miles, let's say, with their forklifts to use the batteries, right?
Yeah. Well, mission critical applications where the forklifts are really the production tool, that's
Yeah.
where there's a business case.
What about OpEx and CapEx? These things, I guess who do you speak to at customers, and what about OpEx and CapEx?
Well, the OpEx and CapEx, I haven't found the key to the rule. Really, it depends on the internal buying policies. Some companies prefer to buy their stuff and own their stuff. Others don't want to be like having inventories, and so they prefer the energy as a service or a lease. So yeah, it really depends. Typically, so far, we've been doing a lot of bottom-up type of purchasing scheme with the company. So we start with the people who are in operations, the one who have the pain associated to their lead acid batteries, or sometimes even the internal combustion engines, forklifts, the maintenance people, operations people, health and safety people as well. So typically these guys have the pains. They help us build a business case. But like I mentioned earlier, we're speaking with large corporations that have fleets. So it's a buying committee that actually will sign off on a purchase. Just to give you an order of magnitude, we're talking about roughly $30,000 for a lithium ion battery for a typical forklift, a class 1 forklift. But these companies operate 30 to 200 forklifts in their warehouse. So it's a big investment to make the transition. So it's not one person in operations that will have the authority to approve a budget like that. So it starts with operations, moves up to general management. You have purchasing that gets involved, and in a lot of cases, some like VP level will be involved. 6, 7 people will sign off a PO at the end of the day.
And those high-level people, are they on average more for or against those as a service type of models?
Well, again, it depends on the internal buying policies, but yeah, we've had some pushback on the initial expenditure of the transition, and the energy as a service was presented, and it helped mitigating the risk, making sure that the cash flow of the company was preserved. So yeah, I think when you're speaking with operations people, really don't care. They just want to have a better solution for them in their operations. But when you're talking with the higher up people, they're more sensitive to those aspects. The purchasing people as well, even though, yeah, it's a different different approach. So sometimes it doesn't fit the mold that they're used to. So we have to do a lot of education with that. Just to get back on the buying committee. In most cases, it's a bottom-up scheme, but sometimes we also get the sustainability VP or someone in charge of ESG or setting carbon emission targets. that find out about lithium, and they bring that down to the operations. So we've had that as well, but it's not a majority of the opportunities that we have.
Okay, interesting. I mean, you're not making yourself the life very easy because there's two big fights that you're fighting, right? There's one battle, which is the technology battle of kind of convincing customers that lithium ion is the way forward, and then there's the business model aspect itself. So it's kind of two fronts at the same time.
Well, the business model, I think, gives us some flexibility in the purchasing process. But yeah, there's a lot of education in terms of technology. We're not at the same place as we were 5 years ago. People are more educated on lithium. At first, for me as a marketing person, to do a lot of education on why lithium. Now it's more, okay, I know about lithium, why UgoWork in particular, and we're working on the differentiators such as energy as a service, but also the software, the data, and other stuff.
Okay, super interesting. I mean, SLAs, service level agreements, and risk sharing are at the core of those service models or as a service models. I would be interested in going a bit deeper in the SLA aspect of things. What are the most common service level guarantees that you've included in your contracts?
Well, there's one condition to some of those guarantees. That's the connectivity, because we can do something about the stuff that we know about. So the batteries have to communicate with our cloud. If that's the case, then we have a promise of intervention delay on maintenance activities. We have a network of service partners. So we embark them on our SLA because we don't have a local presence everywhere in America. We have our core service team who's here in Quebec City, and then we have that network of partners that are local. So the promise is response time. There's a intervention delay that is agreed with the service partner. These guys, they have the most common service parts at their location, so that when they need to do an intervention, they already have the parts. And also, we provide them with the diagnostics and the precise service instructions to minimize downtime for the customers.
What you're saying here is that you're selling the as a service only via dealers, or is this what I'm understanding? Like those are the dealers which are basically the maintenance partners on site?
They are a partner in our operation, but the contract is between the end user and us. So they are the service partner is a partner in our relationship with the end user.
So it's a subcontractor for you, but you have the energy as a service contract with the end customer. But you're sending out a certain subcontractor to perform any maintenance interventions or service interventions on a given customer site.
Yeah, we have a program of certified service partners. So there's training involved, and a lot of other aspects to make sure that our promise is delivered to the customer, but through them.
Don't they feel that you're stealing their part of the business of basically the relationship with the end customer, which now you're owning?
Not necessarily, because they manage the whole service part on products that they wouldn't have. So that's additional business that we give them. And in a lot of cases, those companies are also becoming resellers of our technology, so they can make a margin when they sell our products. Even on the energy as a service, they will get like part of the sale if they're involved in the sales process.
Do they get recurring commissions, or is this one-time thing?
It's a one-time thing, so we keep the recurrence, but they get compensated just as if they did a traditional sale of a battery, because they can do that as well, obviously.
Yeah. Okay, so you use them for both, let's say, both models.
We haven't talked about that, but the way the market is structured, you have forklift OEMs, you have battery OEMs, then you have the end user. And in most cases, in between, you have a dealer that will select the forklift and the right battery for the application. So they are deeply involved in the whole scheme. They have their boots on the ground, they're close, so they do the service. In a lot of cases, they have the long-lasting relationship with the end users. So they have a lot of value in the whole thing.
Yeah. Okay. And their reaction towards the as a service has been fun.
Yeah, well, at first it was, I wouldn't say a shock, but they realize that it makes sense and that they have to adapt to that reality in order to survive, because they are there to provide value for their customers. If their customers want that, they need to find their way in the ecosystem in order to survive. Otherwise, someone else will provide that.
Interesting. Interesting. We hear a lot that risk sharing is the crucial aspect behind as a service, where it's basically a transfer of risk from the customer back to whether it's the manufacturer or the dealer or, let's say, the provider of the as a service. Is there a story that you can share where this risk sharing act of, or risk sharing where the customer gives the risk back to you as a manufacturer, where this was the reason why you signed a certain deal?
Yeah, there are a few examples of that. Like I mentioned earlier, the technology is still young, and we're talking about a promise for like a long lifetime. So in the mind of those customers who see ahead, that's we were battling against companies who were offering a 10-year warranty on their products. And so to us, it didn't make sense to do that, because even the lithium cell in the product doesn't have that kind of warranty. So it was a bit hard to understand how they can offer that. So we kind of explained those principles to our customers. We explained also the engineering behind our product. So I told in the beginning that it's not a consumer type of purchase. It's a really technical and sophisticated cell and product. So explaining the security mechanisms, the firmware that actually reads the battery temperature and optimizes the state of charge to make sure that the lithium will live longer. Like today, your iPhone, when you plug it in, it knows that you're going to wake up at around 6 or 7, and it's not going to charge it to maximum up until like 5 in the morning to preserve battery life. So those kind of things are present in our product as well. So it gives us the confidence that we will be able to offer the same product, that it will last for a long period of time to the customers. And on their side, they understand that we are serious about this, and that the promise of a product that will last long will happen. So I don't know if I answered the question, but that's kind of the way that we can wedge in the credibility of the company and the product, and like making it fit with the energy of the service product.
Okay. Very, very clear, very clear. We talked about this before, but the end of life management, I'm very interested in that one. You mentioned that customers can either renew their subscription or buy back the equipment. I guess they can also say, no, I don't want to buy, I don't want to renew, I want to give it back.
Mm-hmm.
Between those three options, what are the percentages that you see?
Well, we started 2018 to go commercially with the product. We offer a 5-year contract, so we only started to have some renewals on those contracts. So the numbers I can give you are based on like a small number of occurrences, but I would say roughly 50% will renew their
50,
contract.
right?
50. So yeah, 50%, and the rest will be a split of rebuy based on the residual value, or they will keep the contract but put the batteries in a different application. So instead of having a battery that is in a cold storage environment working really hard, they assess that the value, the residual is a bit lower, but the product could still be used in a less demanding application. So they will decide to reduce their monthly subscription to that product and reallocate it into another sector of their warehouse where the application is not as intense. So this way they get a kind of a global coverage of their fleet that is all UgoWork, all the same charging infrastructure at a reasonable price. It allows them to be running lithium in areas where the ROI, the initial ROI, didn't make sense. But now that the product has aged, it makes sense for them. So it's a mix of the.
Yeah.
It's a mix.
It's a mix of the three. So you're saying about 50% are renewing, but still the numbers are quite new, let's say, because you only started 7 years ago and it's 5-year contracts. And then a split between renewing, buying back the equipment or stopping.
We've had occurrences also of people wanting to buy back but refill the lithium pack to get back to that initial performance. So by doing that, they buy the enclosure and the frame at a discounted price, and they only pay for the lithium. So it's kind of getting a new product, if you may, but at half price. That has also been seen. I think we're the only ones offering that because we have all the data from the start. We can tell quite precisely what's the energy left in the product, and we can give insights so that they make the right decision.
Yeah, the residual value, you can assess them in a much better way, probably.
Yeah.
I think this is very interesting talking about numbers also. I'd be very curious to hear what results you've seen so far. I mean, Deloitte's Fast 50, so I guess there's a lot of traction behind those models. Could you share how many subscription contracts you've sold so far?
Well, in terms of batteries in operation, roughly 50% under contract. And right now we have over 2,000 assets deployed in North America. So roughly 1,000 under energy as a service contracts in Canada and the US.
Okay, wow. So 1,000 batteries under the energy as a service contract, which represent 50% of all batteries out there that you've delivered. And on average, within one given customer, how many batteries are included?
It depends. We have customers who have multiple sites. Like I mentioned Kraft Heinz at the beginning. I think I might be wrong with this, but I think they have 30 different distribution centers and manufacturing sites in Canada and the US. And between those, there's between 20 and 100 forklifts in operation. So it really varies. Within the group, it could be 2,000 pieces of equipment, but site by site, the number is smaller.
Can you comment on the average deal value for a energy as a service contract?
Well, for one battery, we're talking about $500 a month on average on a class 1, 60 months. So you have your number there. That's the average for one battery. And then again, it depends on how many trucks there are per site. So between 20 and 200, that's what we've seen so far. And then it depends how many sites the customer has. So if you take it at the corporate level, it can be like multiple millions for one given customer. But there's kind of a trickle down of corporate sites and then how many batteries there are per site. It gives you a rough order of magnitude, but it really depends.
And because this is something we've seen across different companies where they say roughly on a 5-year term contract, the relationship between the hardware and the value of all the services, the software, the consulting behind it, we're talking 1.5 to 2x compared to the hardware. Are these the orders of magnitude that you see as well?
It could be in that order, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Including the software as a service and all the other stuff. If you were doing the a la carte and buying the asset, you would get that kind of order.
You add 50 to 100% on the hardware price to form the complete package as a service over the 5 years.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Okay, interesting. In terms of CO2 reductions or energy efficiency gains, are there any numbers that you can share there as well?
Yeah, well, the lithium part is responsible for a lot. We're talking about 71% gain in terms of efficiency. So if you look at the carbon emissions, that 71% more efficient will create a 41% reduction in terms of CO2 if you compare it to lead acid. Depending on the carbon intensity of where the customer is located, that will change the CO2 equivalents quite a lot. Like here in Quebec, carbon intensity is low because we have a lot of hydro. If you go to Florida or Texas, there's like either nuclear or even coal centrals. So there, the carbon intensity is much higher, like 631 grams of CO2 equivalent per kilowatt hour is some of the carbon intensity you get in Florida. And if you look at Quebec, it's 54. So roughly factor 10. So that will obviously impact the CO2 emissions.
So this is on the technology itself, right?
That's the technology itself, right? Then the other stuff that can be factored in is the whole life of the asset. So like in the case I mentioned earlier, where you have a customer who swaps the lithium pack from the battery, then you don't have the steel, electronics, chargers, and all that stuff that needs to be remanufactured to extend the life of the asset. It's harder to calculate what the impact is on such a scheme, but that's a big one. And then some other thing we can do that is not necessarily related to the carbon footprint, but more on the infrastructure, the energy infrastructure, is because we have that data availability, we can optimize the energy use. And depending on the customer location, there's a structure for pricing for electricity. Avoiding peaks can be something that is important, or the maximum peak will also be some part of the billing. So we are able with that data to optimize the energy use, either by doing some shift in the moment where the batteries will charge at full speed. We can also avoid peaks by doing that and avoid the general demand. So it's more on the infrastructure and not on the CO2 in this case.
Okay. A good combination of savings that you can generate and basically prove the return on investment or to reduce total cost of ownership calculation for your customers.
It's part of the value add that we have with the service and the software.
But you're always going to do it do you also sell to customers that are already using lithium-ion batteries, or do you usually, in a big majority of cases, sell to customers that are with lead-acid batteries and that want this new technology?
Yeah, that's the vast majority. We also have propane to electric conversion. I would say 5% at this point. And we also have customers who did the transition to lithium ion, but were not satisfied with the provider that they selected. So we come in as a replacement option for them because they have a business case for lithium. Lead acid, because if you look at the market shares right now in America, it's roughly 10% for lithium ion, and that is growing year after year to the profit of lead acid. That's the most, to the profit of lithium, but replacing lead acid.
Yeah. Okay, very, very clear.
Because maybe one precision I can add to that, it's a direct retrofit for an electric truck. You can just swap the batteries. There's a little adjustment to do in the firmware of the truck, but basically that's it. If you want to do a conversion from a propane to electric, then you have to change the truck.
Yeah, not that easy to convert It's like converting a car that works on diesel or just a normal gasoline car kind of towards electric, right? It's not just about
No,
an easy.
they will wait. They will wait at the end of life of the truck to do that replacement.
Okay, very interesting. Still talking about numbers, I mean, you've been recognized as a very fast-growing company. What were those numbers based on? Is this purely on revenue growth? And if yes, can you share a certain number there?
Yeah. Well, you're probably referring to the Deloitte Fast 50. So that's public information. Our growth over 3 years was 624% in terms of revenue. Yeah, that's a fast pace growth, and we're within 10 to 25 millions in terms of revenue. So that gives you an order of magnitude. I can not tell you the exact number, but that's roughly what it is.
That's an impressive growth rate. If this continues like this, you'll reach 1 billion soon.
That's working hard towards that. But yeah, the whole situation, the geopolitical situation, is making our life a bit harder. But yeah, we're doing great.
Did I read that correctly? That you are manufacturing in Canada, but you're assembling in Illinois, where in the US, so kind of that it allows you to, let's say, circumvent positively the.
Yeah, it's a bit of a complex scheme. I don't know if we want to go in those details, but that's interesting. If we have time, I can explain. So the country of origin of a lithium-ion battery is determined by the lithium cell. So those are like little cylinders. In our case, and in the case of pretty much everybody in the market, the lithium cells, if you want to have good quality, the supply will be in Asia, Korea, China. And so at the moment, if you import that into the US, there's a high tariff price to pay. Some of our competitors have manufacturing facilities in Europe or in Asia, and they import the finished product to the US. So they have to pay the tariff on the finished good, basically at the price that it's going to be sold to the customer. In our case, we have an arrangement with a supplier that imports just the lithium cells. So small component, much lower price, less tariff when you import it because there's no margin on top of it. And then some of the transformation from the cell to the pack is being done in the US. And then depending on who the product is going to, if it's a US customer, then we will have our factory here in Canada that will do the whole battery enclosure, including electronics, chargers, and everything. That will then be sent to the US. But since it's a product that is made out of mostly North American components, there's no tariff. It complies with the USMCA criteria. And so no tariff there. The final assembly step is putting the lithium modules into the enclosure. That's done in Illinois and then delivered to the customers. So by doing that, we have a minimum impact from the tariffs. And for our Canadian customers, the module that is being assembled in the US comes to Canada, to our factory, assembled in the enclosure and delivered to our Canadian customers. And no tariff there either.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were able, because we master the whole supply chain, we master the whole design, we were able to be flexible and agile in making that happen in a very short period of time. So that creates a level of competitiveness for us, which is a good thing in that uncertain period.
Yeah, and not having to kind of push the tariff burden onto your end customers. So that's good to hear. Smart move. Good. We're nearing the end, even though could stay for 4 hours talking and having a good conversation with you. It's super interesting. I mean, every transformation comes with challenges, right? I'd be curious to hear about the lessons learned mostly regarding what's the most common misconception that companies have about energy as a service.
Well, the learning, one of the big learnings that we had is, even though you have someone who's prone to go for a business model, that you have someone that you're talking to that is understanding. If you want to push that model to a large corporation, you have to simplify it to a level where it's acceptable. So that's why I guess we reshaped the offer a few times, going from dollar per kilowatt hour to some packages. And to be honest, we're still working on improving the offer, simplifying it for our customers. There's a lot of education to do still in the market in terms of the as a service business model in general. So yeah, even though we work with that every day, I guess the misconception is that it's a mainstream thing today. There's a lot of education to be done.
Okay, so the market isn't well educated on this yet, and so you have to play the role of the teacher and explain something which is unknown to them.
Especially in our space where it's a traditional market, more of a consumer type of purchasing scheme. In the software side, it's a different story. When we talk to the purchasing team about SaaS, our Hugo Pilot, it's pretty straightforward. When you talk about the asset, something else.
Very, very clear. When you're fighting the technology battle, so basically going from lead acid to lithium ion or from something to lithium ion, what are the key reasons why a material handling operations guy should go towards lithium ion?
Well, maybe that's one learning that we did. We're an engineering team. We were focusing on the features and the connectivity and the cloud, but what we found is that people don't care about that. They care about the benefits. And in our case, the benefits are increased productivity and efficiency in the operations and a reduced total cost of ownership. So these are the only two things that matter. All the rest is like differentiators. Like we talked about CO2 emissions and things like that. That's sometimes a conversation starter or something that will change in the balance. But if we focus on reducing the total cost of ownership, improving efficiency, and that we have like proof of that we can achieve that, then usually that goes far. The conversation goes a long way.
Okay. So focusing on the outcomes, not on the features, which is something we see this a lot also with other manufacturing companies. You rest assured you're not alone, focused or willing to focus on the features, on the engineering part, but forgetting, let's say, a little bit why you actually do this and from a customer point of view.
Yeah.
Good. Jean-François, merci beaucoup. Thank you for giving us this look into how energy as a service works in practice. I mean, we talked about a lot of different things, but I think one thing you made very, very clear, it's not about the batteries, it's about the outcomes and the benefits that are being delivered to your customers. Question for you, for our listeners listening to this episode, how should they reach out to you and why should they reach out to you?
Well, I'll start with why. So if they have an application with a fleet, decent amount of forklifts running 2 shifts or more, that they're suffering with their current solution, I think we probably have something that can help, again, in reducing costs, boosting efficiency. So that's the main reason why. How to contact us? Well, UgoWork.com. That's our website. There's a contact information there. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm quite active on LinkedIn. So JF Marchand on LinkedIn. That's another way. And yeah, quite simple as that.
Perfect. Jean-François Marchand, will make sure that we add your contact details into the notes of the episode as well. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in for this episode of the Products to Services podcast. Very happy to see you next time. And Jean-François, merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup. Bye, guys.